Hello everyone, welcome back to Call to Mothering. Today I am talking about the importance of winning our children's hearts. There are so many things today that are vying for our children's time and attention, and if we are not intentionally pursuing our children's hearts in specific, tangible ways, they are likely to gravitate towards something or someone that does provide them with what they are longing for the most. When our children are young, we want to take a look at our relationships with them and ask ourselves, do we truly have their hearts? While they are still young, we want to ideally win their hearts and reach them and maintain that closeness throughout their growing up years. That relationship that you lay now will help your relationship weather any storm, even during those tumultuous preteen and teenage years. So today I am sharing 8 ways to win and keep your child's heart. But before we get into that, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and ring that notifications bell so that you are notified anytime I upload a new video. So now let's get to those 8 ways to win and keep your child's heart. Number 1 is focus on the heart instead of compliance. And you want to really zero in on their hearts, which is the whole point, instead of a list of rules. If I just gave my child a list of rules without focusing on their heart and our relationship, it wouldn't make for a very good parent-child bond. It would often produce death instead of life in our relationship. And they would never flourish in that kind of relationship, always feeling like they have to please me, and that they could never measure up. Seeing themselves as a disappointment, they would eventually just give up. Our goal needs to be to capture their hearts, the hearts of our kids, not to always be right and to be the one with all of the power. And it's often a battle with our kids. We have this power struggle that goes on sometimes, but we want to really make their hearts the focus. And it's pointless if our children's behavior is great on the outside, but their hearts are hard and rebellious on the inside. Don't just issue consequences when needed. Make sure that you are using that time to teach them right from wrong and inspiring them to do better. Number 2 is let them know that you love them for who they are. We may not like their behavior at times, but it's important that our children know we always love them for who they are as individuals. And one of the best ways that we can show our kids we love them is to make them feel accepted and special. You can tell your child that you're thinking about him or her just because. You could also make their favorite meal or plan a special one-on-one outing with them, or surprise your child with something that he or she has been wanting. It's important that our kids know how much we enjoy spending time with them. Number 3 is affirm your child often. It's far too easy to criticize our children and find fault with them for the things that they do wrong. When we are disciplining them and we are focused on correcting certain behaviors, we can zero in on the things that they are doing wrong instead of the things that they do right. So keep in mind that too much criticism and not enough praise depletes their love tanks. Your child needs to know that he pleases you, and he needs to know that he makes you proud. Our children may never voice those concerns and those longings out loud, but they are there. So praise your child for his unique talents and gifts and abilities. Let him know how valuable he is to your family, just because he's part of the family, not because he does anything in particular. It's important to verbally affirm our children, but we can also do that through the written word. We can leave them notes in their lunch bags, in by their beds, on their desks, and on their mirrors. And with older kids, you can also text them an encouraging note. One of the greatest ways we can show honor to our children is exemplified in how we speak to them and also how we speak about them, particularly on social media. The book of James teaches that our speech with others should be filled with wisdom, which is pure, peaceful, gentle, full of mercy, without partiality, and without hypocrisy. Our children are no exception. Number 4 is give them undivided attention. One of the best ways to show love for your child is to give them your time. In fact, it's one of the best things that you can spend on them. Our children feel valued and respected when we put aside what we're working on and focus on what they're saying, undistracted. Most parents have the talking part of the relationship down. We have no trouble talking to them and lecturing them, but it's really important to listen to your children when they've got something to say. If we neglect to listen to the small stuff that they want to tell us, when they get older and they have really big issues to talk about with us, they won't want to come to us with that. They'll either want to share it with their peers or post it online. So we want to be the first ones that they turn to for those big issues. When they're speaking, pay attention to their tone as well as their expressions, and don't interrupt with questions or advice. When they're finished, then you can ask all of those probing questions and allow them to explain themselves and their feelings. Even when you think they're misguided and they don't have something right, just let them finish, let them get all of it out, and then go ahead and ask them some questions. Only through active listening can you really understand their concerns and help them. In that moment, it's one of the best things that we can do for our kids to connect with them. Number 5 is be fair and reasonable with discipline. One of the best ways to do this is just be consistent. It's extremely confusing and unfair to a child if we let certain behaviors slide and then we punish them on occasion for that behavior. Also, we have to be careful to treat our children the same, treat all of our children equally, even though one may need more discipline than others. We shouldn't be harsher with one than another, and we shouldn't correct or discipline our children in front of others. This causes our children embarrassment, and it causes them to not trust us as much. In Ephesians 6, Scripture makes a big deal about provoking our children to anger or wrath. The Apostle Paul knew that anger in the home can cause bitterness. It has the potential to allow bitterness between parents and children. There is nothing more powerful than in ripping a family apart, or even separating someone from God, than anger and bitterness. So we want to avoid these things. I'm not talking about being upset when a child spills something on the furniture or carpet, when they miss a curfew or fail a test. I'm talking about the kind of anger that builds up over time, that develops into rage or violence or grudges or bitterness. That is the kind of anger that children hold on to and that they remember. That kind is produced when we are constantly shaming our children, when we are yelling at them, and when we punish them harshly for something that they've done. We need to be careful that in disciplining our children, while we want to correct them, and discipline is good, we don't tear them down with our words or with our tone, and that we also don't spank them out of sheer frustration. Number 6 is don't be too proud to apologize. If you have been angry or snippy with them, go back and apologize. When you realize it, just humble yourself before them and ask them for forgiveness. God talks about forgiveness not just because it releases the wrongdoer, but because it also releases the one who is wronged. And sometimes the only way forward is to humble yourself and say that you're sorry for your reactions. In parenting, you are going to mess up. It's easy to overreact, to get frustrated, to jump to conclusions, and you aren't going to handle every time of discipline and circumstances with perfect consistency or perfect mercy and grace. But fortunately, kids are very forgiving, and they are willing to accept our apologies. If, however, we treat them wrong repeatedly and we don't make it right, that will cause them to harbor hurt and resentment toward us. That in turn will close their hearts off to us. So allowing anger and resentment to rise up and develop into a breach in our relationship with our kids will ultimately make it impossible to reach them, to also disciple them and to mentor them. Number 7 is get involved with what they love. We tend to live by our own schedules. We tend to be really busy and caught up in what we have to get done. And so we tend to let that busyness interfere with our relationships with our kids. And we also tend to fit our kids in around our own interests and activities. And sometimes we also push our kids into doing things that we like, that we're interested in, but they actually have no interest in because of some unfulfilled longing in our childhoods. Instead, we need to discover what our children are interested in, what they have passions for, what they would like to do. And we need to encourage them to pursue those activities and those dreams within reason. This is one benefit of actively listening to your children talk. In those active listening times, you get to figure out what your children are really passionate about. And so if possible, we should find ways to help our children engage in those activities. If your son loves to cook or bake, sign him up for a creative cooking class that you can do together. If your daughter is into acting, join a local production together. Get involved in your kids' hobbies, their sports, the books they're reading, the music that they're listening to, and all the things that they are passionate about. Number 8 is be spontaneous and fun. It's easy as an adult to be hyper-focused on all the work that has to get done. Like I mentioned before, the bills that have to be paid, the appointments that have to be made. And as a result, laughter and joy tend to get squeezed out. But for our kids, being carefree comes naturally to them. It is something that just comes with the territory. Let's face it, no one wants to be around someone who is snippy, who is stressed out all the time, who's irritable. We can't expect our children to approach us if we're displaying those things, and if we can't expect them to have or want a relationship with us when we push them away with our disapproval because of our mood or our stress. They may even wonder if it would be better to avoid you altogether. So make it a goal to try to laugh and do something fun or silly with your kids every day. Laughing and having fun together builds connections. It builds memories with your children. It forms a bond, and it also releases stress. Children need a relatable mom that's fun and joyful, who's not afraid to let her hair down. So I hope that you have enjoyed this and it was encouraging to you. Thank you so much for watching and listening. And remember, you are not just a mom.